Hi, it's Britt again. I swear I need to get way better at intros. Seriously. This video, I am going to talk about the biggest mistake I almost made after I moved abroad. So, in my last video, I talked about how I sold what little I had, packed up, and moved halfway across the world to Southeast Asia. And before I left, I spent months, 6, 7, 8 months researching before I left the United States. And in my research, which was geared towards Thailand, I compared visas, apartments, healthcare, cost of living, transportation, all the things that you would research before you move to a different country. And I did this because I was trying to make the perfect decision. Because when it comes to moving abroad, it's such a life-altering decision. It's not something to be taken lightly. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure to pick the perfect place, pick the perfect country, pick the perfect city, pick the perfect apartment. But looking back, I realized I was dangerously close to making one huge mistake. I thought I needed to find the perfect country before I left. And now, looking back at everything over the past month and a half, I don't think that's how moving abroad works. So, I'm also looking at my notes, so don't say anything. Okay? So, like I said, I researched for 6 to 7 months once I decided to move abroad. And I haven't really gone into the story about how I decided to move abroad, but the gist of it is I pretty much woke up one morning and I had a 9 to 5 job and I worked from home and I was sitting at my desk and I knew something had to change. Coming from the US and being a US citizen, the way that the economy and the way that people live, it's very hand to mouth. People work 40, 50, even 60 hours a week and can't afford groceries, could barely afford rent, can barely afford to help their children, can barely save. And that was me. I could barely afford to live. And I know no country is perfect, but everyone should be able to afford groceries, housing, transportation. So that was my tangent. Back to the actual video of the biggest mistake that I almost made after I moved abroad. So I thought the country was the decision. If you have asked me 6 months before I left the United States and asked me where I was moving, I would have said Thailand without hesitation, because that was the plan. And when I tell you I spent months, I watched every YouTube video that you could have thought of for Thailand, for Bangkok. I was in every Facebook group. I knew, again, all the visas. I knew places where to live. I knew all the healthcare plans. And the funny part about it is I have met people in my journey of living in Vietnam so far who do live in Bangkok. And when I talk to them, they think I live in Bangkok because I know it so well. I know it on paper so well. And before I left the United States, I thought if I could just choose the perfect country, that everything would fall into place. But looking back now, and now that I am settled in Vietnam, I don't really think that Thailand was the decision. I don't think pretty much moving to any country is the real decision. When someone decides to move to a different country, that is a big decision. But I think the real decision, especially for me, was whether I was ready to leave the life that I created in the United States and recreate a new life intentionally abroad. I think that's the real decision. Almost bigger than choosing the perfect country to move to. It is being able to leave a life that you know, leave a life that you've been accustomed to, leave a routine, and then move to a different place where you're a foreigner, where things don't come in easy, where English is not the number one language, where there are language barriers, and to intentionally recreate your life. And all that is to say that once I left, it didn't matter where I landed. Rather, it was Bangkok, Vietnam, some country in Europe. Being here, living abroad, truly living abroad, 2 months in, I realized that I still have to wake up every day and build a life. Every day, I have to think about friendships, community. I have to think about my routines. I have to think about the mundane, doctor appointments, banking, transportation, visas, learn how things work. And if someone had told me 8 months ago that I'll be sitting in an apartment in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, making a YouTube video, I would have laughed. And pretty much from living abroad so far, in Vietnam, in this apartment, solo, I learned, especially after all my research, it doesn't actually matter how amazing a country is on paper. And when I look back at the Facebook groups, at the YouTube videos, at the threads on the internet, the blogs, yes, there is a lot of information about what it truly is like to live in certain countries, whether you choose Southeast Asia, whether you choose Europe, whether you choose a country in Africa. There is information out there detailing what it's truly like to live abroad. But personally, when I was doing my research, everything looked good on paper. Bangkok looked good on paper. And it doesn't matter how good a country looks on paper if it doesn't support the life that you're trying to build. And I think what I'm trying to get at in this video is I was set on moving to a different country when I arrived in Vietnam. I had no plans to stay here. And I say the biggest mistake that I almost made after moving abroad. Because if I hadn't have truly stepped back and looked at the life that I was trying to build, look at the life that I wanted to build, look at the routines that I wanted to create, and if I hadn't taken a step back and really looked at how maybe this country, the country that I am in as a stopover, could be the country for me, a country that I never considered, a country that I never researched except for what I needed to do to come as a tourist for a few weeks or a month. If I hadn't really stepped back and listened, I would be on my way to a different country, a country or a city that probably wouldn't have been for me. And pretty much in layman terms, you can't choose a country until you know the type of life you want to build. And that's truly what I have discovered. And it is, and it could have been, a very big mistake if I hadn't taken a step back. And so, what's the lesson here as I ramble on? The lesson is, if you're planning to move abroad and you look at everything that you have, you look at your spreadsheets, you look at your timeline, everything that you need to get ready to move abroad, all the things, all the little things, all the things on paper. Once you get done looking at that, I want you to ask yourself, what type of life are you trying to build? And I know that can be a very loaded question because there are so many people who are getting ready to move abroad to live for various reasons. Retirees, families, people who just need a change of scenery. But if you're someone who is getting ready to leave the country that you're from and move to a completely different country, you have to ask yourself not so much why, because the why can be monetary. The why could be just as big as the country that you choose. But you need to ask yourself, does the country support the lifestyle, your true lifestyle? One thing that I have discovered, and this is mainly about myself, is that you can pick the person up and place them in an entirely new environment, but who they truly are will stay the same. And who I truly am stayed the same. I'm from Chicago. I lived in the suburbs. And I had a way of life, my internal routine. And that internal routine is still here. And I have seen discussions somewhat around this about you can't leave, people who are running away. That's an entirely different discussion. There are people who are trying to run away from things, but this is more a very grounded, personal thing. You have to really know who you are. And when you're looking at moving abroad, whether it be by yourself, with the family, with the spouse, with the partner, with the best friend, whoever it might be, you have to choose a place that aligns with who you are already. I know that there is talk of growth, and growth happens. Growth happens no matter where you are or what you're doing. And moving to a different country will force you to grow in different ways, but that growth will not override who you truly are and what you truly value and the life that you truly want. So I say all of this because, again, moving abroad, especially from the West, especially from the United States, parts of Europe, is trending right now. A lot of people are looking for a way out. They are looking for a place that has lower cost of living, a place where they can finally breathe, exhale, actually have a work-life balance. But I just want to heed caution to choosing a country or a city that looks so perfect on paper. And that could be any country in the world. It doesn't have to be a country in Southeast Asia. Because when it comes down to it, your routine and what life you truly want to live will dictate which city in the world you should be in. So that is my video for today. And again, I am Britt, and almost 2 months ago, I packed up everything I owned and moved halfway across the world. And I am sharing my journey and tips and tricks and focusing on the things that I personally didn't see during my research. You won't get condo tours from me or mall tours or anything like that, but you will get insight onto the small things, as I like to call death by 1,000 cuts, of what truly makes or breaks someone when they are in the process of moving abroad. So I'll see you in the next video.